What is going on, guys? It's Adam. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Normally, I put out a ton of different notes. I have different articles that I'm going to be reading, and I normally, of course, kind of lay it all out, and I spend a lot of time putting these things together. Today, I wanted to more so talk about some of the research that I have, of course, done. Some of the research that I have talked with family who, one of my family members has 2 master's degrees in history. I have been really infatuated with how similar today is with what was going on with World War II. Now, I've talked to you guys about history repeating itself multiple times, and I have said that there are a lot of similarities. And it's almost scary how many similarities there are between right now and our current crisis that the world is going through and what happened before WW2, before World War II. There was plenty of people understand this. A lot of people are on the same page. And I think that, honestly, the people that aren't on the same page just haven't spent the time. Everybody is busy. Everybody's got work. Everybody's, doing so much that it's really hard. I've got 4 kids. It's hard for me to do that kind of research as well. But I mean, like, hours and hours looking back into history and actually seeing what is going on right now is incredibly similar. After speaking with some of the military members in our group, not only active, serving, not only stationed here, but abroad, they're being told that they're preparing for a World War III. Now, a lot of people have different opinions on why this whatever event is coming is going to happen. There's all different kinds of contradictions of people's theories of what they're thinking. A lot of people think that the U.S. is kind of pushing us into this. A lot of people think that Vlad and Xi are doing a takeover. Whichever side you are on, it matters a little bit less as far as my point is that there are so many things today that are happening right now that have happened in history, and it was so long ago that most people alive today don't remember what happened the last time this almost, the exact same thing happened. So if you did not know this, of course, there's a lot of stuff there. But with Europe was in a position kind of in the same arena as now, where, of course, Europe was in a conflict with Germany. And we ended up sending a whole lot of gear, a whole lot of military equipment, a whole lot of money. And not everybody was on board. Of course, there was the isolationists. There was the nationalists and the isolationists that came out and said, hey, why are we sending money over here when we could be sending money here? When we could be spending it at home. That same movement happened before WW2. There was not great approval ratings. In fact, before Pearl Harbor, there was pretty bad approval ratings of going to any conflict that was outside of our United States. And that was because a lot of people did not want to send their young people. They did not believe in, going outside their country and fighting for somebody else, right? They didn't think that this would come here. Same kind of precedent now. If you look at how people's opinions are, either people don't think that this is going to involve the U.S. directly, or they believe that, they don't want it to involve us directly. They don't think that we're going to get involved. I will say this, it's in my position when you are telling people things and when, of course, you look at this stuff every day, we have called many patterns, and we're not trying to give ourselves a pat on the back. It's more like I kind of see it just as you see somebody that believes something and you absolutely know it's not true. And you're like, how can they actually believe this after knowing, after 3 months later, all of these documents come out and it proves it wrong. And you knew from the day one, you knew from day one that this was fishy, right? Or you knew from day one that this story was real. Why'd they, not let it out? Why did they delete it saying it was this or that? Or when you saw this event on TV and you knew something was fishy about this day, and then later on, it turns out it's completely fishy and it was used for this or that. That feeling is how I kind of feel about how people that don't see that World War III is on the horizon. That feeling is what I feel like when people don't see kind of the common sense stuff that is happening right in front of them. All of the money that is being moved, all of the money that is going to be thrown up in the air to be grabbed with a WW3 scenario, and how for either way, whichever camp you're in, whether you believe that Xi and Vlad are taking over or whether you think that U.S. is trying to hold their power, either way, there's been many opportunities for us to kind of, I guess, de-escalate, and it's going the opposite direction. It's going complete opposite direction every single day. We have seen an article every single day about WW3. We've seen an article a day about how history is repeating itself. And of course, if you look back, it's pretty insane how close the circumstances are. Back then, we were sending money and gear. People didn't approve of it. It took a really massive event to turn everybody into believers. And before that, there was actually other events like the release of papers and release of information in World War II, basically showing the atrocities of the German army and what Germany was doing. Now, this is kind of crazy. When you go back to World War I, the same thing kind of happened. And in fact, people were really not happy about how things went down in WW1 and how we went to conflict and not everybody knew all this information, and they felt like there was a lot of propaganda and things like this. So during WW2, they specifically opened up, I want to say it was the Wartime Office of Information or Wartime Information Office, and I believe I'm getting that wrong. One of them was right. But that office was basically posters, videos, pictures, documents, and its job was to keep everybody, up to date as possible on why we were going to, conflict, why we should be jumping in, why we should be doing that. Today, that same thing is happening, only it is happening online. If you saw when all of this started with UKR and somehow magically everybody's got their profile pictures changed to this country that, and I will say 95% of people that are putting that as their profile picture probably can't even point out UKR on a map. I'll just be honest with you. Most people don't know geography. They don't know their history. They don't know how the current administration was put in. They don't know the president's background or how he was on TV shows or any of that. They don't know any of that. They just know other people are saying it and other people with authority are telling them that. And that's why people are just they just go with the flow. And as you've noticed, for the last 3 years, it's almost like revenge on the 4 years before it, because everything is flip-flopped so hardcore that our culture is just it's being shaken. It's being rattled. It's absolutely, everything that we knew has been flipped on its head. And it almost feels like somebody is in a back room joking and, cracking jokes with all of the crazy stuff that they're doing. The people that they're putting in charge, and they're going over the top. They're like, oh, well, we'll get you back. When we're back in charge, we're going to get you. And I feel like we as civilians are just stuck in the middle of this. Meanwhile, all of the military right now, they know that something big is on the horizon, not only with the drills and exercises, but with the money and the gear that's being moved around. Obviously, it is not going to just be a one front conflict in this time. It looks like we're going to have Xi taking Taiwan and the U.S. on, and Vlad taking UKR. And that is based off of everything we're looking at and every piece of information we have, and military knowing where they're going to be stationed, where they're going. I mean, it's pretty obvious that this is going to go down. And people are still denying it. And again, even, Nouriel Roubini just came out and said it looks like it's already begun. All these mainstream people are saying what we have been saying for months, and now they're saying it. And by the way, by we, I mean you guys too. We have all been saying this. The chat has been saying this. Anybody with a 20 IQ and an open mind can look down the street and see what's coming. So I guess the point to this is I would say spend a couple hours. Look at how close this is to World War II. Look at how close this was to what was going on then. Almost the same movements, even the same slogans are being used for gosh sakes. I mean, it's pretty insane. On top of that, the movement and now the landscape has changed. Everything is social media. Look at how far they are pushing social media. Well, that is still not enough. Not everybody is supporting this. So If you do believe in any kind of funky business going on, then you will also probably believe that, some bigger event has to happen to really get people supporting this. And I just want you to remember, when a big event does happen and it's huge and it is pointed in a certain direction, I just want you to think for a second that possibly, quite possibly, that one of the many countries in the world that has all of these sneaky agencies that does horrible things, that takes over countries, that ousts leaders and does all these crazy things and hands bangs to cartel leaders and things. I just want you to think for a second, after this big event happens, like what happened at the harbor, only possibly bigger. If something like that happens, everybody is going to be unified. Everybody is going to have blood in their eyes and just ready to take out whoever they say did it. I just want people to remember, think about everything clearly. Think about what is going on around you. Think about, what is happening. I think that people want to push back against why they're calling Nouriel Roubini Dr. Doom, and all of these other economists, these world-known economists, are saying that it's already begun. Why they're calling them Dr. Doom is because it is not culturally appropriate to have to be a pessimist, right? People say that this is pessimism, that you are looking at the bad possibilities. Personally, we look at it as looking at worst case scenario. If we're prepared for worst case scenario, then if anything underneath that happens, you're ready for it. If you train for the playoffs, that game, that pickup game is going to be super easy. Okay, if you're training for the Olympics and you're just playing a pickup game and you're giving it your all, you're going to win. So as far as preparing, Benjamin Franklin actually did a really great quote. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And that's what all of us need to be thinking about. I think that the reason why people are pushing so hard against World War III is because immediately when people think of World War III, we have been trained our entire lives to think that the next conflict is going to be mutually assured destruction. We're all going to perish, and it's going to be nukes and nukes and nukes and nukes. They have purchased so much of this insane robotics and new technology and drones and unmanned aerials, unmanned submarines. All of that stuff would be used first. That would be last resort, because at the end of the day, they want, if they were going to take over somewhere or if they were going to take control, one, they would use a whole lot of different infiltration tactics at the same time as well. They would rather take over a place without anything fired. But they would also use a ton of this high-tech gear. They would use a lot of their stuff first. Those nukes are going to be used as a last resort. Those are going to be, if they're failing, they're losing, and that's like taking the poison pill there. That's like if you're surrounded and something's going to happen and boom, you take that. That would be the case. So when people think of WW3, they think of the end of the world. And in fact, when I mention WW3, everybody goes, oh, it's not the end of the world. Nothing's going to happen. First of all, if you follow what has been going on and if you follow it close like we do, it's our job to bring everybody else the news and to bring what we think is important and filter through all of the crap and look at both sides and to grab news, not only from here, but all over the world. The entire world is preparing for this. And there are still people saying, I think it will be okay. I think it's okay to be a pessimist at this point, because right now people need to be looking at their stocks. They need to be looking at how they are preparing for their family, especially if you have children. If you have family and children, then why would you leave yourself in a position that if the 0.1% chance, if that's how low you think it is, if that happened, why would you be caught with your pants down? That's what I don't understand. Is if you have kids or if you have a family or if you are the matriarch or the patriarch of your family, why aren't you taking care of this and at least trying to give it thought? If somebody else isn't, then you try to do that. If you're single and alone, this should be much easier to prepare for. Remember, a lot of disasters are survivable. This doesn't mean you have to go all out, but people should be paying attention at this point. Every single arrow is pointing that in financially, economically, as far as our supply chain and everything else that's going on in the world, everything is pointing towards some sort of huge power struggle that's going to continue, and it's going to make us suffer out of anybody else. Take a chance and look at how people felt about World War II. Look at how people are feeling now. It's going to take some massive event to switch people around. And guess what? They even did polls back then before the harbor, which again has its own kind of, holes to go down. There was all sorts of talk about this. There were even groups saying, why are we over there? Why are we sending all this money out? There was famous speeches of people that were saying, why are we giving all this money out? Why are we sending it over there when we could be sending it, helping our babies here? I mean, it is crazy. Not to mention, if you look, all of the stuff that's going on with Saudi Arabia and the oil, and then, of course, Xi is trying to gold back his digital yuan. Think about it. Any time that any currency has tried to be gold backed, something bad happened. Anybody messes with the U.S. hegemony over the world, something bad happens. And that's where we're at right now. With CV and everything else that has happened over the last couple of years, I don't see how people could think that something globally couldn't happen. People should have woke up then when they first went to the store and there was nothing on the shelves. And people think, oh, well, it was because people panic bought. Yes, that's true. But what if there's a real disaster? What if there's a real disaster that doesn't stop? What if there's a real disaster where the grid comes down and it doesn't go back up? There's not going to be any refill. There's not going to be trucks and everything pulling back in to refill those empty shelves. That's what people need to think about. And at this point, if you're afraid of this and if you call this fear-mongering, then don't watch scary stuff. Don't make yourself afraid. Don't watch scary movies if you don't like scary movies. But for the people that watch this show every day and watch me and have followed me, you should at least give me the benefit of the doubt that I look at this every single day in and day out. And we have a lot of people, as you guys know, we have a lot of military in our groups, and that's simply because we have constantly, said that we support military. So military people see that, they start watching. You guys know how many vets have called into our show. And those vets and all of those active, and people call in and they say that their whole base is watching. That's amazing. We are blessed to have that kind of audience. But we are also looking at what they are saying. And we always look at all the information. We don't try to take, if one or two people say something, we don't just take some random person, because it could be somebody just trying to troll us or get us to say something that screws us up or makes us look dumb later down the road. But when we see multiple people saying the same thing, and there's no harm in it. They're basically saying they're being told that we are going to be into combat. The 101st Division being deployed, obviously we talked about that. It's not all 60,000 or however big that division is, but the rest of the people in the 101st are on ready. They're ready to go. So all we need is one mistake, one big accident, and this thing all kicks off. And the difference between now and 3 years ago when we said this is because it was in the beginning stages of it. Well, they say, they've been saying that World War III would happen for a long time. That's because it takes years and years and years to deal with, to make the planning. Think about how long it takes to plan a wedding. And then think about world takeover. Think about that. How long does it take somebody to just put together a general wedding? Okay, it can take months to a year to years. Okay, now think about world takeover. Think about changing an entire system that is already in place, to completely tearing that down and then putting up an entire other system. You can't really do it overnight, but what you can do is you can change things little by little. And it's as if you didn't notice, a lot of things are changing. And through CV, a lot of things changed like this. Now we are still doing self-checkout after, however long after the whole thing is supposedly back to normal. But yet we don't have 24-hour grocery stores. The hours are still the same. We're all, if you have cash, you're paying at one register at the damn store. Out of 50 Walmart registers, they have one for cash and a line to the back of the store, and they're having us do our own checking. Why? Why are all these things different from back then? And then when they closed down the world for months on end, if people didn't think that had repercussions that would... people think that it would just happen right away. Oh, we saw the repercussions. We're good. We've bounced back. At the point of that happening, we were already in debt to multiple countries around the world. There's also something to be thought about how Xi has been doing the Belt and Road Initiative, basically loaning money to poor countries that they know will not be able to pay it back. And then once they are in debt, Once they're in debt to them, then they can basically take over. This is exactly what the U.S. did in other ways, right? And you see that Xi and Vlad have, of course, more Xi has been coming up. He has been getting every single country around him doing business with him rather than the U.S. There's a lot of money to be involved. You think of the highest ranking officials, any one of them could be paid off if they have a yacht through the end of the world. Okay, if they have a $5 million yacht riding off into the sunset, they don't care about you. Okay, these people get paid more money. And by the way, these people have a regular salary like most people. In fact, some plumbers make more than what the president is supposed to make, right? How do they make their money? How do they have money from all over the place? Well, because they haven't separated people just handing massive amounts of money to politicians. That should have been done a long time ago. So when you think about that, it makes it a little bit more realistic that this place could be infiltrated and taken down from the inside. We are all divided, divide and conquer. And I don't know how you could see how divided we truly are and not think something is up. Something is going on that is absolutely massive. And the sooner that people get that through their heads, the better. So I just, I never try to say anything is for sure. In my opinion, though, for the last 6 months, I've been telling you, World War III is for sure. The end of the world is not. How we react to things and how everything goes, if it gets out there that people are knowing that it's going to happen, instead of people closing their ears and putting their head in the sand, then more people would be talking about the right things instead of talking about these other things. If this got as much attention as the Amber Heard and the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case, it would have already been flushed out. People would have been figuring stuff out, but of course it's not. So with this, I will try to attach some really interesting pieces of information. Main point is people need to be looking at things and really be opening their eyes to the bigger picture of what is happening right now. And people need to be looking at their basic plans with their family. They need to be looking at what they can be, where they are. And if you work away from home, think about how you would reach your family in a disaster, whatever that may be. And of course, realize that every single day on this earth is a blessing, that every day that you wake up, we shouldn't take it for granted. Stop being afraid of dying and start living. Start living as much as you can right now, because we are in the worst times, and they're telling us that our lives are going to completely change in a matter of just a few years. World War III or not, our lives are changing. They're telling us they're going to change. I mean, if the world runs on oil and they're saying that that's going to be gone in a few years, how in the world do you think that we're still going to be on the petrodollar if petro is not going to be the main thing that everybody is using? Think about that. To change that whole system out and to separate from everything, it's going to be absolutely nuts. To start a new system, they have to tear the old one down. And we're going to suffer from that. And there's a lot of things you can do to actually keep through this. So I hope you guys have a good night. We will be back tomorrow. I'm going to talk about everything that happened over the weekend, including what happened in South Korea. Horrible event. Obviously, everybody has been talking about that. Things like this, it's like Final Destination. It's these freak accident events that happen, and they will always happen. People will, of course, talk about that, but they won't talk about all of the weird, funky stuff that's going on at their office, because now it is basically a sin to talk about anything like this. You'll get fired. You'll get canned. People will whisper behind your back if you talk about anything else at work other than what they want you to talk about. That front headline, they give you a few things that you can talk about at work, but other than that, you can't talk about any of this with your friends and family. You go off on a little bit of tone, and then people will just shut down. You guys know what I'm talking about. You talk to certain people, you mention one word, and then you can see their face flip, like, oh, you're one of those. We're all one of those, and we are probably I guarantee we are the majority. We're not the 3% on Twitter making all the decisions in the world. And who knows? Hopefully Elon taking Twitter will change that. But obviously, if he really is a hero, we'll see. They'll probably come in and they'll be able to censor the entire internet because they're saying that things can be said on Twitter. That could be set up as well. Just the fact that Twitter is being taken over and it now controls where the trends and how we do laws, and a single hashtag can all of a sudden turn into a cultural change. That could be set up on purpose. So then they have a reason now to put in new laws, new bills, and then all of a sudden I won't be able to speak on this platform or any other. So people need to start waking up and looking at 4D chess and looking a couple moves ahead and saying, well, why would they do that? It's just like rock, paper, scissors. If somebody just does paper, they're most likely then going to think, oh, he's going to do scissors, so I'm going to do rock. They're thinking a step ahead, and then you have to think another step ahead to try to counteract that. So again, like Benjamin Franklin said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. You guys have a great night. And again, check out marfooglenews.com. By morning, I'll have this page up, and any bibliography that I'll add there as far as information that I use for this video, I will try to attach that. Again, that's marfooglenews.com. If you want to support us, we're independent media. We don't have anybody behind us. We don't have a multi-channel network. We have you guys. You can go over and support any of the affiliate boxes if you want to get prepped, or if you want to get water filters or anything else on there. That's all on the website as well. And every time you purchase, you get a discount, and you're helping our channel out at the same time. Thank your mods for keeping it peaceful in the chat. And I appreciate the 2,000 that showed up at this late show, 10:30 here. Now it's 11 Pacific. So for you late night East Coasters, love you guys. Haven't seen you in a while. Obviously, I used to do my show really, really late. But again, I hope that everybody is well. And I hope everybody has a happy Halloween. But just remember that, you know, all of this is happening and the people around you aren't seeing it. So you don't have to force them to see it, but you can prepare yourself. And that's going to help everybody. The more people that are prepared, the more people that don't have 3 days of food in their fridge at any given time, the better we will be off as a country. And that goes for Europe too. If you don't see what's happening, then I really don't know what to say. Obviously, people are hoarding. Countries are hoarding. If you don't see Xi hoarding 65% of the world's wheat, 55% of the world's corn, and stopping LNG and natural gas sales to other countries, if you don't see that as a flag, then I don't know what is. They are hoarding, and they're getting ready for the same sanctions that Vlad got. And they also say at the same time they're ready for that they're ready for a conflict, that we're not ready for a two-front conflict. So have a good night, guys. Be safe, be prepared, and please share this out if you can. Share it with somebody that doesn't believe it, okay? Have a good night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.